What's up, guys? So this is the first episode of the Unkage podcast.
Ooh.
Uh, yeah. We literally just spent like the last freaking 30 minutes trying to figure this out. So this is probably just going to be the initial setup for right now, but it'll probably change as we kind of get more savvy with it. But uh,
Very bare bones.
literally. So we're just gonna basically kind of start off with who we are, what this whole thing is gonna be about, and then basically kind of shoot the shit maybe for a little bit. But you want to go first?
Put me on the spot, won't you? Yeah, well, Gonz and I both own a gym. It's called the Cage Gym. Um, but I don't, do we want to start with kind of our individual stories?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Go.
cool.
Yeah.
So I'm Omar. I'm one of the owners of the Cage Gym, and I started bodybuilding because I was a wash track athlete. So that's kind of where my story, where I usually start my story when I talk to people, is I was a high school athlete. Um, that really didn't do much with my sport. I was a track athlete. I love track, but I wasn't really all that great at it. I was a 400 runner, ran a 53. If you know, you know. Um, but I ended up really kind of transitioning into bodybuilding my senior year of high school when I just started taking lifting more seriously. And when I graduated in 2020, my track season ended abruptly, and I sort of transitioned from doing primarily track to bodybuilding. It's kind of just what called my name. It's what I really like to do. I really fell in love with the process of bodybuilding, and that's when I sort of well, Gonz actually really approached me, and we ended up having a conversation about doing a bodybuilding show. And so in 2021, I competed for the first time. I was 19 years old, and I placed second at my very first show. Now, mind you, it was only four competitors, but it was still really cool to compete for the very first time. Um, so that was a ton of fun. But I really know Gonz from way back when. We actually met, man, I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
I was 15 years old when we first met, and he was actually my manager for a door-to-door sales job that I was doing for the Chicago Tribune. He had an office based out in Cary, and I was one of the sales reps. So I really wasn't supposed to be working for the company at the time, but Gonz and the other manager, Danny, they gave me a shot, they gave me a chance, and so I did door-to-door sales, and I did that for quite a few years under Gonz. And I continued to do it later down the line as well. But that's how we initially met. Um, Later, after I was doing that job, Gonz had ended up leaving the Chicago Tribune. I was still doing it for a little bit. He was also doing it for a little bit separately at another office. Um, but he ended up transitioning into uh, a different sort of business. He went on to do wholesale real estate,
Yeah.
and I was still doing door-to-door sales. I was still in high school, and sort of my junior, senior year, so I was 17, 18 at this point. Um, we sort of reconnected because I wanted to get my real estate license. So I ended up getting my real estate license. I think I was 18 years old, like freshly 18. I was finally able to apply and do my realtor license and all that. And so I got it. And I joined up with you guys, with you and your other partners to help you guys out with the wholesale real estate. Did that for some time. And that's kind of really where we did the bodybuilding show. Like through sort of that same process, we were also doing the bodybuilding show. And we grew
Yeah.
really close through that process. And one of the things that we both I know we had these like hour-long cardio sessions that we would do. You would do them with me while I was on prep. We trained at a gym called Brick House. That was like our main gym that we trained at. It's a really cool bodybuilding gym in Carroll Stream here in Illinois. And we talked about on a pretty frequent basis that we someday wanted to own a gym just like Brick House. And then a couple years later, I got a phone call from you, or really like not even a year later, right? Because it was 2021 and
Yeah.
we bought
A
the gym
year
in
later.
2022.
Yeah.
So about a year later, not even, you hit me up and you had gotten the opportunity from a client that you were coaching at the time that, yeah, I mean, this gym was for sale. This gym used to be called Iron Fanatics Gym.
Yeah.
And I was the first person you called, and I was like, yeah, fuck it, why not? Why wouldn't we want to buy a gym? And I mean, yeah, sort of. Here we are, a couple years later. So I know I dove into your story quite a bit, but that was sort of my that's sort of my backtrack into it. So
Yeah, dude. So many people like, cause like I knew him, yeah, when he was 15. I was probably already like 21, 22.
yeah,
Like when I bring up this story, sometimes people look at me weird because they're like, like, why, how did you know this kid at like 15 years old? But yeah, I actually knew his sister. His sister had worked with me for when we were working at the Tribune. Um, I come from like a big sales background. Like that's all I did coming out of high school. I'm 28 now, but I started working back when I was like probably like 16, 17. And that's all I've ever done is commission-based jobs. So I come from that. part. During high school, I was just honestly just a kid that liked working out. I was kind of overweight most of my life, so I found weight training through my mom actually that had put me inside a weight training class at the rec center in Schaumburg, and I learned through a personal trainer that taught me and just one other kid that had signed up for that class on how to lift weights, and she just taught us how to use the overall weight room in general. So I grew to love weightlifting through that experience alone. So I discovered that back when I was like 15, no, 14 years old, and ever since then, I just got a gym membership. As soon as we were done with that program, I got a gym membership there at the rec center, and I started working out there like a couple days out of the week. My friends started noticing that like I did that, and so they wanted to come do the gym with me as well. So I would literally have them come with me. They also got gym memberships at that gym, and we were in the beginning. Honestly, it was just something fun to do with friends. Like that was it for me. Now, mind you, most of the time I was probably working out by myself. I That was something I always enjoyed, was just doing it myself. But every once in a while, I would have friends join me, and I would help them out. Like I'd be like, "Hey, try it this way," or "Try doing it this way." I think I've always liked to teach, very early on, and that kind of has led me to kind of be in the position that I am now, which is like a coach and trainer. But ultimately, in the beginning, that's how it started. So that's my background. I sucked at every sport. Like during high school, I was not good at a lot of things. I always hated competing in general. Like I felt like I always like I liked the practices and like working up to it, but then when it came to doing meets and stuff like that, I felt like I was always just a very bad athlete when it came to meets. I would just kind of like the pressure and like me wanting to like be better, or sometimes getting put up against people that were just leagues above me, and like getting crushed by that just would demoralize me. And I never liked that aspect. So when I discovered weight training, that was like, oh shit, like I have something like I can just work towards for myself. Like I'm really there's no competition here besides me. You know what I mean? And so that's essentially what I made weight training about. That's why I fell in love with it. And over time, I got to understanding that there's things like bodybuilders. There's guys that compete for this kind of stuff. There's a lot of different things that. Hold on one second. Just gonna put this on Do Not Disturb.
The
Sorry about
DND
that.
on.
There we go. Um, but ultimately throughout the years, that's what I discovered for myself. But yeah, literally after high school, things got a little hard for me because, well, you don't have gym class anymore, so you kind of have to figure it out for yourself. So I got a gym membership, but I got very lazy about it, and I kind of went back to my old ways. Started eating out, gained a bunch of weight, while doing sales. So I kind of had like almost like went from caring about my health, caring about my physique, almost to like, nah, just now care about money, care about just working and let go of health and fitness. That's kind of like the shift that I had made. And I feel like a lot of people fall prey to that once they leave high school, once they maybe leave college, and you just kind of gain all this weight. For me, it was like extreme though, because I come from a big family of just people that just love to eat and we overeat. And so I had gained a lot of weight just from very bad eating habits that we would have during the sales jobs. Um, Omar knows that very well. Like we would go out to Wendy's, we would go out to Portillo's, Chick-fil-A, we get like
Pilates,
Pilates. Basically we would get bonuses at the end of the night for getting a certain amount of sales.
hitting our quota.
Yeah, and that was basically like a weekly thing. Like we would hit really good quotas almost every other day.
Yeah.
So we go out to eat every night, and yeah, a lot of the things that we would pick are just not very healthy things. So that stuck up pretty fast. But during that time frame, I think it was probably around the time I started getting into real estate, I had found weightlifting again. I had a realization, like a big aha moment back when I was like probably 21, 22. I lived in a townhouse in Cary that was uh, like two stories basically. But I used to run up to my room, which was all the way at the top floor. And one day I had run up the stairs and I felt so out of breath that I felt like this was a concern, and I almost felt like my heart palpitating. And it was in that moment that I was like, okay, dude, I cannot keep this going any further. Like I have to change and I have to do something for myself. So that day, I think I was probably like, yeah, literally early 20s, like 21, 22. I said, all right, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to start cutting out the BS. And that was my initial start back into my old self. So discovering my weight training routine again, discovering and going actually more in depth on what nutrition was. Because before that, like honestly, like during high school, I just ate whatever my mom made. Like that's it. Like whatever my mom made, and then maybe some things from lunch, but like I wasn't necessarily like I didn't understand what nutrition was, eating like meals like regularly and all that stuff. During that time frame, I had also hired a coach. If you guys know his name's Craig Goliath. He is like a freaking ginormous man. But the guy's like Instagram famous. He's got like bajillion followers. But he was very big on Snapchat during that time. This is probably around like 2019 ish, 20 something like there, around 2019. I'd hired a coach. Wanted to just go into the bodybuilding lifestyle and like actually follow like a structured nutrition plan. Like how I would see like on like the training montages that I would see these guys eat like 4 or 5 or 6 meals a day, drinking shakes. I was like, I had never done that before, and I'd never understood what macros were or calories were. And so he taught me that. Now keep in mind, like all he really did was send me like just like meal one, meal two, meal three, meal four, meal five, and like he literally had me eating like 6 meals a day. So it was almost like me going from like absolutely nothing, like just maybe eating 3 meals a day to like eating 6 meals a day. And throughout that process, I discovered like wow, like my body's changing, my physique is changing, and it was honestly just due to calories. A lot of the foods I was eating was very simple stuff. Like it wasn't anything complicated. It was like chicken and rice, steak and a potato, 2 scoops of whey. It was very simple stuff. But during that time, I had committed to a show that I wanted to do during 2020, and well, obviously we all know what happened in 2020. The thing happened, the COVID thing happened. So basically, show ended up getting canceled. The only other options from there were really for me to do. Oh yeah, keep in mind I had dieted down pretty harshly during this point. I probably at like when I first started, I was like probably around like 190. I had probably dieted down all the way to like probably almost like 160s, like 167, 168. But I was a very flat, like 167, 168 because I had gone zero carbs for like almost like 3 weeks actually. He had me on zero carbohydrates for like the 3 weeks, but that's because I had picked a time frame for myself to just basically try and get to, but I was overshooting it. Like I was definitely like not near where I needed to be, and so we needed to fasten things up. And so what were the things that we were gonna do? Well, he just had me go zero carbs. So yeah, I suffered for like 3 weeks. That shit was horrible. But I I was getting in shape. Definitely was not shredded by any means, but I was definitely leaner. And show got canceled during that point. And during that time frame, I was so like ready to like escape this diet that I was just like, dude, I'm done. Like I really don't want to keep dieting from this. Like these last 3 weeks have been freaking horrible. And during this time frame, I also was obviously doing the real estate company. And so during that time, like I was literally of no use. During those 3 weeks, like I was legit almost napping while we were trying to work because I just did not have the energy to even like do some standard computer work. Like I was just laying on the beanbag that we had at the office sometimes, and I would just be like staring and like just like falling asleep. Like but that's just how it is. Like when you're trying to train, trying to do like an hour of freaking cardio and zero carbs, all you're eating is protein every day. Yeah, you're gonna be freaking tired and hungry all day. um, but you're gonna lose weight pretty fast. But yeah, so during that time frame, I was just kind of understanding nutrition, and I'd understood, okay, the beginning of the diet was awesome because I had 4, 5, 6 meals a day. I understood like, wow, my body's still changing on these amount of meals. That's crazy to me. But at the end of the day, I started realizing this is all about calories. When I had now transferred um, most of those calories, right? Like which were carbohydrates. Now they were like completely zero. Obviously, I kept losing more weight. So all that stuff started making sense to me. During that time frame, I let my coach go. I was like, "Yo, listen, we'll probably do this another time, but for right now, I don't want to do this anymore." He kind of led me out on a reverse diet afterwards, sort of, and then I just kind of started figuring it out for myself. During that time frame, actually, so I did have a time, like probably like that first week or two, where I just decided to just binge and just eat, and kind of like what most guys do after a show. But after that, I decided to just try to see if I could keep the diet going myself. So during that time frame, I incorporated more fasted cardio. I started going into more started basically like this was actually during the barracks now. Like this was like when I was training at the barracks. This is gym in Palatine, Illinois, called the Barracks. This is Green Gym, and I was working out there, and I'd worked out with my couple of my friends, Malik and Danny, and yeah, during this time frame, I was basically just kind of learning things myself, like trying to understand what nutrition was more in depth. Um, Basically, just stumbled upon more mentors, more kinds of courses that were going to help me, and I got really big into if it fits your macros. So I started tracking my macros, and honestly, that's probably the leanest I ever got was during that phase. And this was probably when we started working out too at Export. Um, you were joining me for a couple sessions at
Yeah.
Export, yeah. So
We're running the Mountain Dog program.
I got into a lot of John Meadows training programs during that time. And at this point, I probably ran like over probably 10 or 12 of his programs at this point. But yeah, awesome, different variation of training. Really, embodies what old school bodybuilding training is. And during that time frame, I was also learning more about nutrition, about how those things help me. Um, Long story short, during that time, basically after his show, I had a client that I was coaching during that time. I'd gotten into coaching already during this time frame, like probably around like 2021, 2020, around that point. And I was just helping people for free. But I had this one client that was actually paying me. Her name was Josie, and she was already working out at the gym that is now the Cage Gym. This used to be called Iron Fanatics. And one day, this is crazy because she had told me to come up here during the pandemic multiple times. Okay, like she'd always texted me like, "Hey, you should come out, check out this gym." But I was all the way in Schaumburg, and this gym's all the way in Mundelein. So I already found like a little gym or export really that was right down the street, and it was already open during this time, and I didn't want to make the drive all the way up to go there. And it wasn't until one day she told me like, "Hey, do you know anybody that would want to buy a gym?" Literally, just like through Snapchat. I was like, "Wow, that's insane." Because I was in wholesale real estate. In wholesale real estate, you find properties like this that are distressed that people are trying to just get out of. And literally, the way she summed it up, this was like that situation, but just for a business setting. And that was the only difference. And during that time when she said that, I was like, "Oh, wow, that's crazy. Like, this is wild." Like, and at the beginning, I was like, "Huh, who could I wholesale this to? Like, who would want to buy a gym right now?" And then part of me was also like, "Dude, it'd be sick if we had a gym." And then I was kind of like during that time frame, I was like, all right, let me see, let me get the information. So I got the owner's phone number, spoke to Lou, that was his name, and the guy was honestly in a very distressed situation. He was going through a lot of different things, and well, during that time, I'd called Omar, and I was like, yo, listen, this guy wants to basically let go of his gym. It's in Mundelein. I think I had sent you like the list of all the things that it came with.
Yeah.
I don't know if I sent you pictures, but
I still have the original list actually.
yeah.
Yeah, I have it printed out in a folder actually right over there, right on my desk.
Yeah. Hmm. With like literally all the things that were gonna come with the gym. So it was literally just a list, right? We went to go check it out, and we had basically lifted there. Yeah, we lifted there one day before we ended up buying. I think he went there twice.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I just went there once with him one day to work out. Guys, this gym was like completely like just tattered. It
it
was
was
like,
ransacked for sure.
yeah,
It was in it. As much as Lou's situation was distressed, this gym was distressed. Like, it clearly had needed it needed some love. It needed some clear attention. There was, oh man, I remember the day that we took it over. The first thing I did was I brought a leaf blower in there and blew out all the dust bunnies.
that was
And I
horrible.
probably it was probably like it looked crazy. It looked crazy. Um, yeah, it was super rough. The walls were all different colors. There was graffiti on the walls. There was a mini fridge in there that had molded food that looked insanely decayed from who knows when.
I think
Um,
there was food in the lockers
there
too.
was food in the lockers as
Yeah,
well. Oh my goodness. But it had good bones. It had good potential. The equipment
yeah,
that was there was great equipment.
very old school stuff.
Yeah, a lot of the original pieces that were in Iron Fanatics, we still have here at the Cage Gym because it was good equipment, it's good pieces. A lot
Hmm.
of the weights, the dumbbells even, we still have those. So it was a facility that needed love and needed attention, but we both saw that it had great potential. I mean, the first time that we came in there to train, it was it was a really cool environment. Now, granted, most of those guys are no longer here. They actually, we'll probably get into that story at some point too. They actually started their own gym,
Hmm.
but the first time we came here, it was a really cool environment. The guys in here were training like super hard. It felt like what Diamond Gym is today, right? Like that's really what it felt like when you walked in here. It's like everybody's yelling at each other, training really hard, hyping each other up. The music's loud, the weights are clanging.
Hmm.
It was a hardcore bodybuilding, powerlifting training environment, and we fell in love with that.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was like really it was a different kind of environment for sure. Like I don't think at least I'd never stumbled on to that kind of gym. I had been to like hole in the wall gyms before, but I had never been in an environment like that where there were just a bunch of guys that were just like cheering each other on, and like they were all powerlifters, so they were all like deadlifting in like a big circle in like the middle of the gym, and me and Omar were just kind of like just doing like our own little workout
We're
like
doing a
up
chest
front.
workout, I remember.
Yeah, so and it was like it was really cool, it was awesome. I think that was probably one of the biggest reasons that like made me fall in love with like the idea of having just a gym with a community like that. Is just the fact that like there's people in an area that just cheer each other to do better or to, you know what I mean? It could be as simple as a deadlift or a bench or
Yeah.
something,
It
right?
was a community and it was their
Exactly.
community and it was really cool to walk in on and see the
Mhm.
way that they trained, the way that they were yeah, I mean it was really cool. They cheered each other on and held each other to it and it was camaraderie, right?
Yeah,
And that was really cool.
that is awesome. So I think from that day on, I was basically sold onto the fact that like this was awesome. Like this is something that in the foreseeable future I would like 100% want to have like. And so after that came the negotiation side of things. So we ended up negotiating with Lou. Took us probably, I don't know, probably a
Couple
week or
months.
two,
A
a
couple I
couple months.
think it took
Couple,
us like really 2 months to close on it
yeah,
because from the first time that we came on in, um I mean we I think we both came out knowing that we wanted to buy this place, but the asking price was way high. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
we ended up closing on like probably like 60% of what his asking price was, something like that, a little more than half of what he was asking for initially because yeah, it was pretty crazy. Do you want to disclose figures?
I mean, yeah. So
Okay.
like,
I think
yeah.
what did he want? I think he wanted like over 50 grand for the
Yeah,
facility.
like he was like he had started 50. I mean, I highly doubt. I mean, I don't know. Supposedly, so during that time frame, he'd already pitched this to like the guys that were there. And also I believe there was like another party that was interested. And during that time, I believe like his initial starting number was around 50. And then he basically just came down like, but if you guys are willing to do it, blah blah blah, like I will give it to you guys for like 40 or somewhere around that range, right? So during that time frame, we were basically just sitting. Well, there's a little restaurant actually right across the street. It used to be there called Oregano's, and we were basically met up with him for like a little lunch during that time. That's when he disclosed what he was going through, what he was trying to get for it, and I think during that time is when we started our negotiation process, right? And just going about like what he really wanted, we ended up just coming down to a price point of trying to be within like the $30,000 range, and I think we ended up closing everything around 32, right?
32.5, I think
Yeah,
I have it. I
32.5.
can actually find the receipt. It should be right here.
Yeah, so he still has the receipt basically that we had printed out, like the little purchase agreement. Um, but yeah, 32.5 for the gym, and the initial gym was basically like 3,000 square feet. Had all the equipment inside. We were basically buying equipment. That's what we were doing. We were buying equipment and inheriting a lease. That's a pretty cheap lease, to be honest with you guys, because I don't know if you guys understand how expensive commercial real estate is or to rent in a space like this, but when you're starting your own business, that's a big reason why a lot of businesses go under, is because they are paying way too much money for rental spaces. That's the agreement we
So
have.
I have the original agreement from the Cage Gym. No, all here. I'll take out his name. But this is all the equipment that we bought for the gym. So
Yeah.
there's more here. And the total purchase price is right here. So we actually bought it for under 32. We bought it for 31.5.
Yeah.
So that is what we bought the gym for, $31,500. And there are signatures. So that's the original purchase agreement from 2022 when we bought the facility. It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy to look back on it now, like where this place is now compared to then.
Yeah. So that, yeah. So he had made it really nice because he basically put a list of all the things that you'd be getting. But yeah, ultimately at the end of it all, that's what ended up happening is we bought it cash. We showed up that day. It was actually pretty funny. Basically, we showed up with the cash, um,
Like, I think,
in a plastic
yeah,
bag, like literally.
I think I got a cashier's check, and I think you got like literal a bag of
I
cash.
literally had a bag of cash, and during that time frame too, yeah, I had the bag of cash, came there. I gave my 50%. Omar paid him with his 50%. And
And we closed on July 18th of 2022.
yep.
So that is when we took possession of the gym and signed a new lease with the building owners because we don't own the building. We essentially purchased all the equipment. It was an agreement to purchase all the things that were inside the gym. So we own all the equipment and yeah, signed a new lease. And I mean, here we are, like 3.5 years later, almost 4 years later.
Hmm. So yeah, during that time frame, basically, it was just a lot of uh, just kind of like ultimately once we inherited the gym, like we had a couple days there, we were just working out, trying to clean what we could, and then it was a very surreal moment. Like um, it basically felt like heaven on earth, like just like completely just nothing else mattered but this. And there's a lot of times when I remember training there like at night, like when we, especially that one day, like after we had bought it, like everything felt so freaking like just surreal. Like
Yeah.
everything was just like literally like nothing else mattered besides this spot right now.
Yeah.
And it was just awesome to know that like something like that is just, now yours. Like you can literally just go inside, fucking get a workout whenever you want.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a very amazing moment. There's a lot of endorphins, a lot of like just different emotions and different things that you feel once you inherit something like that you're passionate about. And so, um, yeah, I think a lot of that led at the beginning of the process, right? And I think that's super important to highlight because I feel like a lot of people that maybe are getting into business or wanting to own their own business, if you don't feel that way about the business that you're getting into, you're probably not going to succeed.
So much harder. Yeah,
Yes,
for
yeah,
sure.
because there's a lot of people right now trying to get into businesses that they have zero passion for. But if you don't have that drive or you don't feel that surreal moment whenever you enter your space or whenever you're in that environment, like you're probably not going to last very long. Like any business is hard. Any brick and mortar business is very, very hard to start and ultimately make it unique nowadays because everything is just a copy of everything nowadays. So I think that's one thing that
Shout out
led.
Kage Gym, Pakistan.
uh, those are copycats up in yeah, Pakistan. I was about to say Iran. Yeah, but honestly, yeah, that's I think that's what led to a lot of the like the unique style that we had in the beginning. I think our gym now delivers a lot of just like a different atmosphere that I feel like a lot of what's around here in this area, at least in Illinois, there's a lot of gyms that don't have something like this. So I think we did really good by naming the gym what it is, having the mascot, our panda. Literally, we have like a
Braun.
Ron. We have a mascot, basically, it's a panda. So that's completely different. In our color scheme, black and yellow, like all those different things, plus the fact that it's a very old school environment, which you don't really see too many old school gyms around here, especially not in the suburbs where we're at. I think all of that kind of encapsulates what the Cage Gym really is. So, and that's honestly what we've done from year one all the way up to now, year three. So, um, yeah, yeah. But kind of leading off into that, um, I guess as far as what this podcast is going to be about. Uh, this might be a couple different things. I feel like there's probably going to be more stories like this, kind of like highlighting. There's a lot of things that we did not cover. There's a lot of like different.
Details, a lot of stories that, feed into this that I guess are important to the story,
Yeah.
but definitely I want to get more into that. I definitely want to talk more about just how this place came to be, talk more about business, but
Yeah.
I also want to I would love to have guests on. I want to be able to introduce all the people that made this possible, the people that um that we look up to, people that like maybe interview our community, interview influencers, interview there's a
Hmm.
lot of directions that we can go with this. Um, I'm really just excited to see where it goes, where it takes us.
Yeah, we had a lot of help along the way, and I think during it's going to be a big part of this podcast is just highlighting those people that actually made it possible and showing off their unique personalities. Because there's a lot of personalities in this gym, and it's it's honestly it's catered to those individuals. I feel like 'cause there's a lot of that's what makes the gym so unique. I feel like it's just the community itself that has been brought up through this process. But yeah, as far as that goes, I mean, let us know what you guys want to see more of. If you guys want to hear any like more detailed stories or anything that like we didn't go into, I guess like if you guys want to go ahead and just let us know, give us some feedback. Um, follow the page. Definitely follow the YouTube channel. If possible, also follow our Instagram, the Cage Gym. Everything is under the
It's
Cage Gym.
possible.
And let us know what else you guys would like to see. And if you guys are interested in maybe becoming like a guest on here, where we can kind of interview, go ahead and let us know. This will be posted up on YouTube. We might post it up on different podcast channels, but we got to figure that out first. But definitely it's going to be on YouTube. And hey, you want to anything else?
I think you basically covered all the basics. Um, yeah, no, I'm just excited to see where the podcast goes. I'm excited to see who we'll bring on, what conversations we're gonna have, the format of it. I know this is very rudimentary. This is our very first episode. We literally have my webcam set up on a tripod right now on Gonz's MacBook. So
Yeah,
that's how we're recording right now. But so I can't wait to see how this evolves. And um, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to finally start this. We've been talking about it for years, probably
yeah,
since we started the gym, that we wanted to do a podcast, and we're now at the point where we have a little bit more time. We have a little bit more just flexibility to do something like this, and we have the space to do something like this. So super cool, super excited.
Thank you guys. Unkage your strength.